Good morning. It's Thursday, September 11th, 2014. This is Tech Talk Today, episode 57. Tasty. My name is Chris. We got a big show for you today. So I have armed a special panel of Mumble Intelligence operatives. Time-appropriate greetings, Mumble Intelligence operatives.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
My codename is not 007, it's 000.
Well, good, because hopefully you don't have your codename in this new leaked file that we're hearing about today. 5 million Gmail usernames and passwords have been leaked. Now, don't freak out. Although maybe it's just a good time to remind you should always have a good secure password for each service you use. In what appears to be an unknown attack, hackers have dumped over 5 million valid Gmail usernames and passwords on the internet early yesterday morning. Unknown hackers have leaked over 5 million valid credentials, at least according to some analysis, which claims 70% of the credentials may still be good. The .txt file of all the leaked Gmail usernames and passwords was found on a Bitcoin security forum in Russia, where the leak is believed to be first have been offloaded. As the leak was posted only hours ago, Reddit users have been warning each other not to give out their email usernames or combinations, to use different combinations on different services, and to check if their passwords are secure. So Google has responded. TNW, the Next Web, reached out to Google and has tried to find out, were you compromised? Is this a valid list? Well, of course, Google in a statement began to say right off the top, security of our users and our users' information is always a top priority to us. We have no evidence that our systems have been compromised. Whenever we become aware that accounts have been, we take steps to help those to secure. We help take those users to secure their accounts. In other words, Google's going to go grab a copy of this list and probably run it against a database and see if any weird logins have been going on. Since the posting, former administrators have purged the passwords from the text files, leaving only the logins in place. Furthermore, the forum user who published the file said that he thinks only 60% of the logins are valid. Anybody in here had a weird Gmail account thing going? I always have I'm always paranoid about my Google account, so I'm always checking did you know you can go into Gmail towards the bottom and see if any weird logins have happened? Did you know about that? You should check it, because you never know.
I'm currently changing all my passwords.
Last past that.
Yeah, last past that, or even key past it, but at the same time, I don't know if this article stated that, but these logins are have some age on them. So the fact that they have some age on them means some of these passwords might not be valid, but if you haven't changed your password in, say, the last 5 years, you might want to change them now.
Yeah, the original guy who dumped it says 60%. Somebody ran an analysis. I don't know the details on that. We're gonna do a deep dive on TechSnap today, so we'll go into the specifics of that particular aspect of the story. But what I find to be interesting is he's still claiming, yeah, it's old, but 60% of them work. How would he know that?
Well, unless he ran something against them.
Yeah.
Which is kind of hackery and douchey.
Well, it would probably set off security flags, I would hope.
Oh, yeah, easily, because, my Gmail will flag me anytime I log in from, say, Pennsylvania.
Yep. That's a neat feature. I think that's one of the best things about Gmail.
Yeah.
So, yeah, this is a story we'll watch. It like you said, because of the nature of the age of it, and the fact that Google says they're not aware of any compromise, all of those are kind of sort of tampering down any kind of really worry I have here, other than it's almost like a reminder just to go out there and get these kinds of things taken care of. Something else that we've been waiting to get taken care of is what the hell is going to happen to Google Voice? Well, you might have noticed it's starting to change out there for you Google Voice users. Google Voice is finally being integrated into Hangouts, because God knows Hangouts need to be even more confusing. You can enable the voice, SMS, and voicemail via a pop-up in the conversation list if you go into the app. And I think, let me check on the iPhone. I think they just did a update to the iPhone app, too, to support this. I'm not totally sure about that. Yeah, I'm going in there right now. Yeah, there was just recently an update to the Google Voice app on iPhone. So that's interesting. It's still a standalone app on the iPhone. Does
that mean I can send you free text now?
Well, yeah, I think that does mean that you'll be able to take advantage of that feature from Hangouts now. I've been a Google Voice user for a long time, so I've always had free text, which has always been so funny that people pay up so much money for texting, and there's so many free ways to do it. I'm not totally sure how I feel about this. So I've used Google Voice since it was Grand Central Station, before it was owned by Google, and I used it for a while as Grand Central Station. I was a very early customer, because the promise was one phone number for your entire life. And that phone number can route to all of your phones. It has a lot of voicemail and recording options. You can do not disturb. You can have individual voicemail boxes. This was great for me. So I could have one phone number and my clients had that phone number, my family had that phone number, and when they would call, it would route them based on my rules. This is an amazingly powerful feature, and it means that I could give out my number to somebody, and if I didn't want to talk to them anymore, I could just blacklist them, and they would never ring my phone again. And if I have multiple cell phones, I can switch to the Nexus 5 one day, the iPhone the next day, because everybody's just calling my Google Voice number, and it just rings all my phones. I worry that if it becomes, instead of a standalone product like it is now, voice.google.com, and becomes integrated into Hangouts, if it becomes a feature and not a product, I worry that it isn't something that I can truly use for the rest of my life. See, the promise there is supposed to be something for my entire life. I worry that that promise is no longer true. And Google, when they bought Google Voice, or Grand Central Station, said, we're going to keep this promise. You can trust us. We're going to keep this. Well, we'll see.
Yeah, they've gotten rid of a lot of products that they promised that they were going to keep.
Yeah, and I see Microsoft is integrating Skype into Windows Phone, and Apple's integrated FaceTime into iPhone. So this is sort of a competitive platform feature for Android. So I just worry that that's the angle they're taking with this, and not sort of like giving freedom to the users to, whatever.
It's kind of a natural next step, too.
There are other services out there that do Google Voice-like stuff. So if Hangouts, does clobber Google Voice, and maybe it won't, but if it does, there are other alternatives out there, too. So it's not the end of the world. Not for Google Voice. However, it does appear to be the end of the world for Macworld Magazine. The print edition of Macworld Magazine is no more, and the digital version that will remain will be just a shell of its former self. This is kind of an interesting deal that I watched go down on Twitter in real time. IDG laid off a ton of the Macworld staff, and when they did so, the staff took to Twitter and tweeted about it, and it was something to watch. And some big names are leaving. Jason Snell's maybe one of the most well-known names. He's leaving Macworld, and Macworld.com, the website, will remain with a reduced staff, according to Dan Miller, the editor, who himself is leaving in a month. Wow. I mean, Macworld has been around. PC World and Macworld, when I grew up, were like the magazines, if you were going to just read about that industry. And they were one of the few people still pointed to as like, well, here's a print magazine that's about computers and it's still doing really well. I don't know. It's just kind of an end of an era. That's all. Just noting that. And to watch it get dirty. A little dirty. So Jason Snell tweets, a personal announcement, I'm leaving Macworld after 17 years, and he links to snellworld.com where he kind of just tells it like it is. I thought it was kind of interesting to watch the whole thing go down, and kind of, me, I lament the death of the press for the tech industry because I don't think blogs are necessarily an adequate replacement, and I don't necessarily think digital is an adequate replacement. I think there's something to print, but I guess you just can't make it work. You guys, anybody in the Mumble Room read a magazine still, or is it everybody switched to digital in here?
I would love to be able to read magazines. Unfortunately, because of their decline, the price has gone up.
They're almost a luxury item, right?
They're almost a luxury item now, and it's one that I can't afford personally.
Yeah,
I read magazines.
Do you?
I would rather read magazines.
Colonel Linux, which magazines do you read on kind of a regular basis?
I have a subscription to both American Rifleman and a subscription to a magazine called Dwell, which focuses on modern living and fancy Scandinavian furniture design, stuff like that.
Do you feel like that's because those particular topics are not like at the forefront of your interest list, but they're still interesting to you? So when you're in the mode for like kind of relaxed information intake, you go to those, and that's why that works?
Actually, so the reasoning is actually much simpler. It's my battery dies on every electronic device I own, and I have to have a backup because I'm a very ADD person, so if I don't have something entertaining me, I go nuts. And so if I'm sitting in a mall or something and my phone dies, I have to have something to look at.
Yeah.
And those are just too many. And it's funny because Dwell, for example, when you subscribe, they give you both a Google Play edition and the print edition. I intentionally don't read the Google Play edition so that when my Google device dies, I can go to the printed edition.
That is, okay, that's a great, and you know what else is really great about that is the resolution I hear on those magazines is pretty good. Battery life is pretty good, so you don't have to worry about recharging the magazine. That's pretty nice, too.
Hasn't died yet.
Have you seen the IKEA rip on the...
once in a while, something comes along that changes the way we live. A device so simple and intuitive, using it feels almost familiar.
Presenting.
Introducing the 2015 IKEA catalog.
The IKEA
It's
catalog.
not a digital book or an ebook. It's a book. The first thing to note is no cables, not even a power cable. The 2015 IKEA catalog comes fully charged and the battery life is eternal. The interface is 7.5 by 8 inches, but can expand to 15 by 8 inches. The navigation is based on tactile touch technology that you can actually feel. Content comes pre-installed via 328 high-definition pages of inspiring home furnishing ideas. To start browsing, simply touch and drag. Right to left to move forwards. Left to right to move backwards.
All right, you get it. But so yeah, I can see what you're saying, Noah. There's a place for magazines. That's why I was a little sad because, you know, if Macworld's going to shut down, then the other, like PC World and the other ones are not going to be far behind. A little sad. That's
Yeah.
all.
Do they have a Kickstarter for that?
For the
That's just hilarious.
for the magazine?
Yeah, for IKEA.
No, that's just them being funny, making a little riff on the Apple keynotes. Okay, so yesterday was the Internet Slowdown Day, and the effort appears to have made a difference. According to the FCC, by 6 p.m. Eastern, the agency saw 111,000 new public comments added to the already record-setting total, with some 41,000 being filed in the 14 to 28 docket of the FCC's website. I don't even know what that is, since another 70,000 were sent to the email inbox directly. I see. So 41,000 came from the website submission tool and 70,000 came in via email. This is a new high water mark to date, and Think Progress says the Internet Slowdown generated 1,000 calls per minute to Congress. That seems 1,000 calls per minute to Congress?
Wow.
I just don't believe the U.S. public can get that worked up about anything. But anyways, Fight for the Future, that was the group behind it, claims that more than 500,000 comments have been submitted to battlefront.com, and the FCC just hasn't caught up to that queue yet. According to that nonprofit, and which is also a lobbying group, this happened during our last big push, too, when their site crashed. We're storming comments, and we will deliver. The numbers here, do they seem believable to you? 500,000 comments alone at battleforthenet.com, 111,000 comments submitted to the FCC, 1,000 calls per minute. You guys buy this?
I saw an ad.
know.
I saw an ad on I think on Facebook the other day that said if we didn't work for net neutrality, porn sites would become ridiculously slow.
You know what?
Wow.
Actually, well, see, but nobody's gonna take action on a porn site though, because then they don't want to be tracked back to that porn site. But I mean, like if there's a pop-up on the site, I didn't see it a lot. I saw it a couple of times yesterday.
Well, what's funny is I warned my wife that this was going to happen, and sure enough, that night she tried watching Netflix and she couldn't get on, and she's like, you know what? I guess I'm just going to have to watch YouTube today.
Yeah, I could believe the 111,000 to the FCC. I could believe that. That's realistic.
Yeah, I could believe 111 in total. 500,000 just from the Battle for the Net website, and 1,000 calls per minute. Maybe at the absolute peak, I could see maybe 1,000 calls per minute. Like if there was one big concentrated push for a little while, I could see like a peak of 1,000 calls. Maybe. I guess it's doable. I believe it. I guess. I'm a little skeptical for some reason. I don't quite know why. Maybe it's not justified, but something about
maybe
it just smells a little
it's such
fishy.
a daunting number.
Until it happens, I don't think there's going to be a scream about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it just goes counter.
To be honest.
I mean, to be honest, I think what it is it goes counter to all of my experience of how the general public reacts and organizes. So maybe this will be the one time where actually people come through. We'll see.
Actually a one-off.
I wanted to discuss something that Floppy Bacon brought up in our subreddit this week. I thought it was a good question, and he's generated already 9 comments since yesterday. He says, in the payment stores in the U.S., are the payment stores in the U.S. really as bad as Apple's presentation made it look? When I pay with my debit card or credit card, I don't hand it to the cashier. I insert it into a small device. I enter my 4-pin code, fast and secure. I don't need to identify myself. I do not need any detail about my card, and I do not have 15 cards in my wallet. I know that I hate technology, but do you really want to pay with your phone rather than just fix the payment system that works elsewhere?
Yes.
So, why don't we talk about paying with your phone just for a minute? Because we watched that whole keynote on Tuesday, and they were like, okay, That's it. See you, everybody. And I don't think we really talked about one of the biggest things that could be a huge change is payments by a phone. I'm going to just tell you up front, I'm kind of for it, which surprises me because you think I wouldn't be. But I kind of like the system that they've implemented where it uses a secure token for each transaction. It doesn't transfer it doesn't even transfer your name, let alone your credit card information. No information of what you bought, and your location isn't stored. Those things I like a lot about it. The other thing is I try to be vigilant and not allow the fear of technology to prevent me from enjoying the advances of technology. And the way I try to walk that line is I try to evaluate each technological development independently on its own and in the broader context. I really don't see this type of system not developing at some point. At some point, a new payment system is going to come along. The system we have now is based in limitations that we were constrained by at the time those systems were invented. We have a new reality now, and it is nonsensical and honestly restrictive to an economy that is trying to grow. I just don't see another way where this isn't just going to eventually develop, so we just have to pick the lesser of the evils. The thing I like about the Apple system, besides the things I already mentioned, is it's actually just also riding on top of what Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and NFC. If they're not doing anything that couldn't just be done with the existing hardware already built into my Nexus 5. And I find that to be pretty encouraging too. Is anybody anti-payment via phone in the mumble room? Because I'm sure I know there's people listening that are. So I'd love to represent that point of view. Nobody.
Well, I'm kind of skeptical about especially when you see people having like a case with their phone and their credit cards and all that. One of the selling points for me having a phone as a payment option, if my wallet gets stolen, I still am able to pay with another method.
Right. I also like that once those things go digital, I can revoke them. I can remotely disable them. These are all really nice benefits that you get by having this system on there. And from like a business standpoint, there will be software developed around purchases that will automatically do all of the receipt tracking, and maybe then I could pin a location and a note and a little recording of what that transaction was for. This was a lunch meeting, that kind of thing, all integrated into my phone. And the thing is that if we don't do this, can we really walk around with these little plastic cards? I mean, maybe, I don't know. I mean, it's not the end of the world if it doesn't pan out either. That's kind of the good thing. It's not like it's going to set back humanity, but at the same time, it seems inevitable.
No, but it is kind of scary to think that you have even more information on you, and if that gets stolen or broken into, so it's much easier to do identity thefts because you have all these records to use.
Yeah. Eric, you've been using the payment, the Google Wallet built into the Nexus 5 for a little while?
I have. And for the past couple months, anytime we go to McDonald's, I've been using it. And just based on that experience and what Apple's doing it is nothing new.
Right.
It is something that has been around with Google Wallets.
It sounds
Amazon's doing their thing now, too.
And it sounds like they're going to be using the same hardware at like McDonald's that you're using now.
Exactly.
See, I think that's a really good thing. So it is essentially, normally Apple would whole cloth invent something, right? And you'd probably have to have like an iOS powered device at the register to work with it. It'd have to be the entire Apple ecosystem. And here they're rolling out something, and they're kind of riding on what Google's already pushed out infrastructure wise.
Yeah, it's not only that, but this is the type of stuff that has been around for years with the chips built into the cards.
Yeah,
this just does it a little bit differently, and not only that, but they're just basically taking the technology that already exists and making it mainstream.
Karis, we have to. I want to go to Noah and
negative in the freedom dimension.
I want to get the freedom aspect of this. Noah, what about the fact that all of these systems are going to be running on probably proprietary software stacks? And things like that. Does that give you trepidation? Are you all in on digital wallets despite that? What's your take on it?
I'm 100% in, and here's what... the thing is, first of all, I don't think the Google implementation is any more open than the Apple, and then before that, I don't think that credit cards or the credit card POS systems were any more open. So I don't feel like we're moving in the wrong direction at all. But here's the thing: I have a personal card that I use for my personal expenses. I have a joint card that is linked to a checking account with my wife. I have a company card that I use for doing company stuff. I have all these different cards that I have to try and keep track of. And so, like, I pre-ordered. Have you seen the coin?
Yeah.
So I pre-ordered one of those. I haven't got it yet, even though it was supposed to come 9 months ago. But I've been constantly looking for a solution like that. And so if we get to a point where I can actually use my phone to do that, and I don't know why the Nexus 5 is so cool, but my Samsung device isn't. But I have NFC, but Google Wallet won't let me do tap to pay.
Yeah.
Which sucks.
See, the other thing that's good about this is if merchants get all on board with what Apple's doing here, then I think everybody that's got an Android phone that can do this is all of a sudden going to also have that functionality, which is cool.
My Galaxy S3, I have it through Verizon, and Verizon locks out the NFC payment option.
Oh, right.
Ow.
Yeah.
I've heard that.
I can still use Google Wallet. I can't do tap to pay. When I had my Galaxy S3 with Virgin Mobile, I could do tap to pay.
Yeah, I'm not sure how
I'm
I
the same
feel.
way with Ting.
I
don't think Ting has done it, but that's the phone I bought from them has the same problem.
I don't think I like the idea at all of any of my financial information being on an Android device, which is interesting because the iOS device probably isn't much better, but for some reason the Android device scares me more when it comes to that. But I guess as long as they keep it all encrypted and secure like they say, then this is going to have to be something. I think I'm going to let the early adopters bang on it for a little while, but I'll probably jump in and do some, I might even put like a safe card on there to start with because there's probably ways you can sort of go in and get your toes wet. And by the way, I just want to make it clear.
Legally, they have to keep it encrypted.
Right. And they say
the thing is with the Google Wallet, you have to put a PIN in before it even activates the app
That's
or
true.
the NFC thing.
So yeah, but on the Apple implementation, they have the secure sector in the CPU, and then they pair that with Touch ID. That's a nice combo. And then with something they didn't talk about in the keynote, but the watch also, they mentioned the watch can be used for payment. Here's how they do that. And I thought this was kind of interesting. The watch is authorized when you authorize it via Touch ID on the phone. And then if the watch is removed from your skin and it senses that it's been removed from your skin, the watch is then deauthorized. So when it loses contact with your body, the watch deauthorizes. And then when you put it back on your body, you can reauthorize it using Touch ID on the phone. That's a sweet system. I like that. Feels well thought through. I'd love to see like some of the Google Wear stuff kind of integrate all of that. They first got to catch up to the Touch ID thing, but then once they get that, I'd love to see that kind of level of connection. And I want to make something clear. I am not, by the way, advocating a cashless society. I actually think my ideal situation would be a store or a place to buy things that takes either a mobile payment system or cash. Insert your local phony money there. But because I like so like for example, if I go out and do some Christmas shopping, I will generally bring a couple $100 in cash. That way I don't spend any more than that, and then I don't go overdo it on Christmas. And if I have a credit card or a mobile payment system, yeah, I might fudge it a little bit because, man, I just found the perfect thing for somebody. So I like the idea of both options. I would just like to get rid of credit cards. I don't like the plastic cards anymore. And I don't like loyalty cards either, by the way, but that's a whole nother show.
Okay.
All right.
One correction real quick.
Yeah.
I just opened up the Google Wallet app on my Samsung. Now apparently tap to pay is working as of 4 point whatever I have on here now.
Nice.
So yeah, apparently it does work.
All right, we're talking about spending money. How about saving a little money? I just wanted to give you guys a heads up. Crossover Linux is a really, really, really slick way to run Windows applications. Just that one Windows app you got to have under Linux, and you don't want to do virtualization. Crossover is great. This isn't a promo. They didn't pay for this. I've been buying their software for like 10 years. One of the reasons why is when I worked in an all Microsoft shop and I was the lone guy running Linux on my desktop and Evolution wasn't even a thing yet, I was able to use Crossover Office to run Outlook, and that enabled me to run Linux, and I will be thankful for them forever for giving me that. They give it a nice actually, I'll just show it to you. I've got it installed right here. They give it a nice no, I don't. It's on my computer upstairs. A GUI to install things like Star Trek Online. This is my preferred way to install Star Trek Online, Office, Photoshop CS, things like that. They have a series of scripts. They'll create a wine bottle, so each application is isolated and secured and protected from like IE updates for one set of applications don't screw up your other wine apps. If you've ever had problems like that, Crossover solves that. You can take snapshots and duplicate the wine bottles, which is pretty cool. They have an entire database, kind of like Play for Linux does. They have an entire database of applications you can install, and then they have the various different install methods. So, for example, Star Trek Online, I can opt to have their scripts automatically download it from the servers, or I can provide an executable. It's like that for all the applications that they do. It's a really good product. I've interviewed the CEO a couple of times too, and he's a nice guy. They also have a version for the Mac where you can run some Windows software on the Mac. But here's the great part. They have a promo code right now, FlashMe. You can get 50% off. Because I think it's normally like $50. So that'll get you it for $30, and then you get it for a year with support and stuff. And then they have like the ability to vote for applications that you want to see them add support for. So Crossover Linux, and the reason why I mention it now is because you've got 24 hours to go get it, because it's already been going for 24 hours, and it's only going to go for 24 hours more. So it's FlashMe, FLASHME, when you check out to get Crossover Office for Linux. I'd say get it even if you hardly ever need it, because that one time, and by the way, on Arch, it's in the Arch user repo. So you just get it from the AUR, and then once it installs, you just give it your registry key, and it's done. And then you get updates from the AUR. It's super crazy easy. I love it. I use it all the time to play Star Trek Online. One last also note, if you'd like to throw a little money towards the network and keep us going, help us keep it weird, stay independent, and invest in our future, you can do that by going to patreon.com/today. I mean all those things genuinely. You really can help make a difference. Your pledge changes things. It gives us runway. It gives us the ability to budget. It gives us the option to hire contractors from time to time or replace hardware when it fails. Gosh, it is so awesome to be able to do this and be funded by our audience directly. Wait, that's the Unfilter page. You can go there too. Patreon.com/today is where you go for all of the shows on the network. Patreon.com/unfilter. If you've recently become an Unfilter fan, and I think we had a great episode last night. It really turned out well. We did it live. We covered a bunch of stuff up to the lead up of Obama's live address about ISIS, and transitioned directly from the background information we were giving about ISIS into his speech. I thought it worked out tremendously well. And so it's a good way to get an entirely deep picture of ISIS and the background of what's going on there, and watch Obama's speech from last night if you haven't seen it yet, with our commentary, analysis at the end, and a few other things. So that was lucky episode 113 of Unfilter. So a little plug for Unfilter there. But anyways, that's just one of the many shows that we do, and you can help us keep them going by pledging over at patreon.com/today and help us invest in new shows as well. Thanks to all 321 of you over at patreon.com/today. All right, Mumble guys, there we go. We're back to our first full week for like a couple of weeks. I think the end of summer bumps are over. School's in session now. It feels good. Feels real good. And so join us again on Monday. We'll be back on Monday, 9 a.m. Pacific, noon Eastern, jblive.tv. JupiterBroadcasting.com/calendar is where you go to get it converted to your local time zone. TechTalkToday.reddit.com is where you go to submit stories, comments, suggestions, vote up or down. Give me an idea of what you'd like to see covered on this here show. And that's a great way to do it. You can also go to JupiterBroadcasting.com/contact. And guess what? You choose Tech Talk Today from the drop-down and send it in. I'm going to wrap up with something from my childhood. Since I figured it was the end of the week, at least for this show, I should celebrate by kind of going all nostalgic. Now, I don't know if any of you out there ever had one of these big, like, Laserdisc video players, one of these huge ones.
I still have mine.
Oh, good. Oh, you're going to love this commercial. Then check this out right out from the early 80s. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. See you right back here on Monday for a new episode of Tech Talk Today.
There's nothing we want to watch on TV tonight, but we're still going to watch something great with our RCA video disc player and video discs. Just flip a switch, and on our TV, we see Airplane or The Pink Panther, The Godfather or Grease, Muppets, Monsters, Mickey, MASH, and 100 more, starting as low as $15. And the player costs less than $500. Put it this way, we're watching a great movie, and you're watching us.